pet owners today, how to avoid common problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
This is Barbara Berrigan-Perea with Delta Flows, a radio show by the Voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune in to Delta Flows on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
KXVS on 92.1. Coming soon.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff. Welcome to KXVS, the Voice of Stockton. And you know what that sound means. It's time for Stockton SJC, the Fugazi edition. And of course, joining me is City Councilmember Christina Fugazi for District 5. How are you?
I've been better. But,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Battling a cold that started on Wednesday. I thought I could get ahead of it. And here it is Monday, and I am still in the trenches.
Yeah. You know, it's been going around. I heard on the news that the whole state is greatly affected, and they're running out of flu medicine everywhere in the state. So hopefully you got some.
No, I didn't, but I don't think I have the flu.
No, what is it? Allergies?
No. I think it's just a cold.
Just a cold.
I don't.
Well,
because I have a cough.
But colds are better because there's medicine for colds. Flus, you just gotta wait it out.
Because I still like to eat. I don't have stomach issues or anything like that.
Man. Well, it's good. It's good. If you got your appetite, I think you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
So, of course, Stockton SJC, the Fugazi edition, which is a great title.
Who thought of that?
The Fugazi edition. I think it might have been me.
It was you.
But, you know, the reason why we have a Fugazi edition is actually, well, people who've been paying attention since before we even came to this location, you have been a great supporter of the station and the community. But I think more specifically is the amount of work that you put into preparing for your programs. There, I have to say, and I've watched a lot of people, but and this, please do not anyone who's listening, please don't be offended. But nobody puts the amount of preparation into the program that Christina Fugazi does.
Well, thank you.
And we had a holiday potluck that we celebrated all the people who've been participating, and you weren't there. Well, I know you had another engagement, but there was also another mix-up with the time. But we did have a certificate. Let me see. I've got to follow the camera, so folks, stay with me. I might jump on an alternate mic, but I wanted to present this to Christina Fugazi. Let's see here. Let me see. Is this mic? All right, we're hot. We're hot over here. Okay, so you're gonna take it. Say, oh, great. Now it's that camera. I'm gonna read it though. This is what it says.
Look, there's a roadway to it.
Yes. So, where you at? Okay. Disseminator of the Year. The Most Prepared Guest Award.
Oh, thank you.
This certificate is proudly presented to Christina Fugazi for your service and dedication. Thank you for all your effort and the timely information you shared on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton. You provided our community with valuable information and insight from our city council. We truly appreciate your service and dedication to our community.
Aww.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. much for that. That means a lot to me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Clanking headphones.
Wow.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, disseminator of the year.
I am going to put that up in my classroom so that I can be a model for my students.
Yeah.
Of, being prepared.
Yeah.
Is important.
It's super important, and it shows in every program. I think that it's very crucial to the Stockton SJC program, because we almost always talk about something that is timely and is current and has to do with our fair city.
Yes.
Or at least our county. But there are so many things going on that I think it's really a good thing. That a lot of people are paying attention now. We get a lot more interaction, but there's a few topics that I've noticed have been real big on the city council. Yeah. And one, obviously, is the Swenson Golf Course. And you brought that subject up to us, which, and I guess almost broke the story. Right. And the thing about that is now it's being talked about. It's a current topic, and people are aware of it, and people want to do something about it. So I think that is exactly a perfect kind of example of the kind of homework you do and how much it engages our community. Regardless of what side anyone stands on, right. Having these conversations is great.
Public engagement is the most important part of, I think, what we do as a council.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're up there, we're making decisions, and people think that maybe it doesn't apply to them or affect them.
Right,
but it absolutely does.
Certainly.
If not them, somebody they know, or maybe a future, their child, their grandchild, their cousin, their brother, their sister, their aunt.
It goes on.
But public engagement is vital in order for us to make good decisions. And so you brought up Swenson.
Yes.
That has really created its own movement.
Yeah.
Yesterday, there were over 400 people that showed up at Swenson Golf Course.
Yeah.
For a community discussion. Now, it wasn't organized by the city. It wasn't promoted by the city. But yet over 400 people showed up. Now you might say, but we're a city that's got, almost 400,000 residents if you include the county pockets. Yes.
Right.
But we don't get 400 people to show up to a council meeting.
No.
So to have 400 people show up, and a lot of people just wanted more information. I mean, this is something that is, personally important to some of them because they use the course, or maybe it's important to them because their house borders the course, or maybe they don't live anywhere near it, but it's the open space, the green space that they want to help preserve. That's important to them. Right. And so I was very encouraged by the discussion. I was there. I did not speak. I am under the weather. But I was there to listen. I really wanted to be on the pulse of the people. And so, Councilwoman Loftus gave a very passionate, words imparted on the people, saying that she was 110% behind the people in preserving Swenson. The mayor also spoke and said that this discussion is not over. This isn't a done deal.
Right.
This is part of the process. And Supervisor Patty spoke as well. So there were a number of speakers. But I think the message that hopefully was heard loud and clear, not only in Stockton, but throughout the state and the nation, is that the public needs to be involved in the process.
Right.
Bottom line. And I think part of it, and I had this conversation with the editor for the Stockton Record, just a brief conversation, was that that one of the reasons why Swenson is out in such numbers, and some of them are actually just, let's be honest here, angry.
Yeah.
Is because they don't feel like they were included in the process. And that includes Lincoln Unified. I mean, like I told you last time, the superintendent and 3 trustees came out. So to not be part of the discussion, and I'm not just saying that, you didn't tell us, but the fact that people felt that Van Buskirk was a part of the discussion.
Right.
And that Swenson constituents, Swenson neighborhood wasn't.
Right.
It's like, getting invited to a party. You know, if everybody, well,
oh, you might be right.
I'm not going to, but if everybody gets an invitation, but then one person doesn't, that one person's going to be hurt.
Yeah.
And they're going to wonder, well, why wasn't I included? And so I appreciated Connie Cochran. She's the city's PIO.
Right.
She sent out a statement regarding this fact, and she went through some points, you know, that we all need to understand, and that is that a decision hasn't been made. So it was the facts about city golf courses, but part of that she put in there is that our duty to examine alternatives.
Yes.
The fact that during the discussion item that the only alternative offered was development,
right,
was not acceptable.
Right.
And I realized it was only an informational item, but it wasn't even mentioned that there were a number of alternatives.
Right.
The other thing that was difficult about this is nobody at the golf course was consulted on this.
Yeah. Well, that's
nobody walked the course, talked to any of the golfers.
So it took them by surprise.
Yeah. It you know, was even the management company asked, you know, what are some ideas you have to increase use of the course? Yeah. So when you leave those things out and then the public feels as if they weren't included in the discussion, people get upset.
Yeah.
People get really upset, and then all these numbers are being thrown around, but you know, people want documentation of that. And we haven't been able to, you know, provide that within a reasonable time frame. I mean, people just kind of expect it. Sure. If you're making this proposal, then show us all the numbers. Sure. All the numbers. Right. They don't just want a whole number for everything. They want everything broken down.
Yeah, otherwise you can't make an informed decision on what something costs or what can be adjusted. And that, I know, I could tell, and people, that's what they've been saying, you know, that they're kind of tired of this thing. And I think this was just the straw that kind of broke the camel's back. It has been typical, I think, and it's really, I don't know if it's a systemic issue, but it's like that not just here, but in many places. A lot of these decisions are made to small audience, you know, and then when something happens, you know, that people have, you know, strong feelings about, and there's some, you know, outrage and things like that. And it's kind of like the cycle that happens. But really, the real solution is not to wait to like there's a buzzword or a push button. You got to stay engaged the whole time.
Right.
And I think part of that is the leadership. And I think what a great sign of what's happening in our community now is that regardless of where people stand, people, I think, now feel not just motivated, but empowered to give their input. Right. And I think it's a great moment for our community. You know, disagreement is not a bad thing. Right. But
constructive
lack of
input.
communication, which is part of the issue that you were addressing, is always going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah. But I want to stress, too, that input needs to be constructive.
Oh, yeah.
And I have seen some, I'm just going to say it, wicked posts.
Yeah.
Like downright wicked comments that I do not support in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Now, people might say, well, why don't you call them out on that? Well, social media, people feel, is their way to express themselves. And in the United States of America, they have freedom of speech, and they can say whatever they want.
Sure.
Well, there is like a Facebook jail, you know, that if people go over the line, they will get their privileges revoked.
Right. Flagged and all that.
And I have seen people who have taken down their inappropriate comments. And so that makes it difficult because then it becomes, you know, more of a personal argument instead of about the issue.
Right.
And so I just would challenge people to stay engaged on the issue and not the personality.
Yeah. That's where everything devolves. And if it's if we're complaining on about things, and our complaints got to be something that can be done. And you know, how somebody behaves is or how somebody appears to behave or appears to feel. You know, those are all opinions anyways.
Right.
But we actually have serious discussions that can be had. And I think that another thing is, I watched the city council meetings. I've only been to a few this past year in person. I'm definitely going to be at more this year, but I've been watching them from the small screen. And there's been some times that I've felt a little kind of, I don't know, I felt like people weren't listening to each other. And there's been some discussions that I feel that somebody will have a valid point, but they might get, maybe, procedurally, blocked from expressing it. But those are things that, mayor, in the moment, it has to be taken in context. But the reality is, the more the public is engaged in those conversations as well, when we're in front of the public, we are on better behavior. We're on, we're on our P's and Q's.
We should be on our best behavior.
Right. And so I think that, that's good for all of us. People sometimes we might be passionate about an issue, especially people who are in leadership positions. Mm-hmm. If they're passionate about an issue and they feel strongly about it, they might be maybe a little more crass with each other because they already know what's up. We know the game. We know the conversation. This, that. But from the public's perspective, it might look a little, hey, this is some tenuous conflict here, some tension here, right? Right. So, but I think it's really healthy for us to be there and to be engaged, and for the city council and the mayor and the city manager and all these people who run the city to see that there's a steady stream of people who are concerned and engaged in what goes on with our city. And I think that's just an overall better effect. But this city council has made that happen. We got more people civically minded than I think ever before. Well,
I will challenge you on that only because Vice Mayor Holman said to me, because I was astounded at the number of people that came out for Swenson. Yeah. I mean, downstairs was packed. Right. I mean, all the people were, upstairs was everywhere. I heard people, cheering downstairs. Yeah. It was amazing. It
was a rally.
But Vice Mayor Holman reminded me, Christina, you weren't here during the bankruptcy. When it came to employees and their benefits and retirees, he said, no, we were here to the wee hours. So yeah, that's true.
That's true. But it's a little bit different situation, though. No, people during the bankruptcy were coming out to put out the fire that might be engulfing their house, but now people are. That is a more self-centered attitude perspective, whether it is intentional or not. When we're in jeopardy, we come out. But now we got people kind of like coming out for just issues, right? And I think it's a little bit different. But I concur, with Vice Mayor Holman. It was definitely a lot of people engaged during the crisis, housing crisis, bankruptcy, all of that. But I just think that it's a very positive sign when you got people showing up to city council meetings, and especially special meetings that are
right. And I think gatherings. That's what kind of threw people as well, is this was on a Monday night, meeting, and it was a special meeting. Yeah. And then we were going to have a Tuesday meeting, and then the following meeting got canceled, and then we had another meeting before the end of the year regarding the Miracle Mile, right. Improvement District.
Well, thank God for that. Because last show we were worried about that because there wasn't another meeting scheduled.
Well, we talked about it, and I said, well, the deadline's the end of the year, and
then you said what needed to happen, and thank God that did, because. That was, I don't even, it's funny because that's an important topic, but we just like glazing over that because there's other issues. Right. It's like, it's almost like national news. We would talk about that, but there's something else bigger.
Well, and speaking of national news, the other topic has made it to Comedy Central.
Did you see that? The Daily Show?
Yes.
That was awesome.
My students did. They came to me going, Miss Fugazi, did you see that? And I'm not up that late. I don't watch that. But
I DVR it, so I catch it.
Oh no! Yeah. So it was all. I was shocked. I was seriously shocked because for a few things, we have been on national news, but not to that degree. I mean,
it was a lengthy segment too. It was like 5 minutes or so.
Right, and not everybody gets satire.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and sarcasm. And when I read an article, I won't say who the author was of the article or the reporter, so to speak, but said, "Oh, it sounded like at the end that he was for the program." I go, "Yeah," as he slipped a $20 bill to the guy as he was saying it.
Right.
I go, "I think he was being sarcastic, talking about his support."
They were going anyway. 5 ways sarcastic. They do a great job with being so sarcastic that you might not be so sure where they're standing. But if you don't pick up on it. But the thing is,
people see that stuff and believe it as the God's honest truth.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though it's satirical.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and people who don't do their homework.
Well, like the Onion news on the internet, it's like, this isn't true.
But people think it is. Like when Fitzgerald was going to work for the Tubbs campaign, he's his PIO or whatever. He's leaving the record and he's going to be the PIO for the mayor or whatever.
It come out on April 1st.
People were like, "Really? You're leaving the record?" And it's like, no, that was like the Onion.
Gosh.
But it's because there's a Stockton Onion, and so it's just kind of interesting. But kind of leading us into that discussion,
advanced peace.
Advanced peace. So let's talk about advanced peace. So
now I want to say also, some people, if you haven't heard of advanced peace, you might have heard of cash for criminals. That's not an official name, but that's what people are some people are labeling this proposal.
Right.
But tell us a little bit about it for those who might not be familiar.
So all I know about advanced peace is, there is a legislation text that comes out with most items that are on the agenda. Mm-hmm. And this was put out by the mayor. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it says recommendation. Mayor Tubbs recommends that the city council adopt a resolution to include in its 2018-22 public safety planning a commitment, support, and partnership with Advanced Peace with the intent to help build and sustain community capacity to interrupt gun violence in Stockton. Mm-hmm. Okay. Couldn't agree more that we need to do something about the gun violence here in Stockton. And let me give you a perfect example. Yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, there was a home invasion in Stockton.
Yes.
And it happened to be a family member of mine.
Wow.
And in that home invasion, there were children in the house. It was in broad daylight. Mm. They didn't come in with masks. They were, plain-faced, came into the house, had guns, pointed them at the children. Yeah. Told them to go into the basement and the adults to go into the bathroom. Proceeded to tell the adults that if you don't do as we tell you, we will kill one of your kids. Mm. And now, one of the guys actually said something to the tune like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep them all together. Okay, so I wasn't there, but when our cousin came over to the house and started explaining what had happened, and it was actually in the staff sergeant, the watch commander's report for yesterday. They were looking for something in the house, obviously, and to think that they didn't wear masks, that immediately would have told me they're going to kill us all. Right. Because we can clearly, you're not wearing a mask.
Witness, right.
So, and one of the little boys, I spent time with him, 10 years old. Mm. Think about having a gun to your head at the age of 10. Yeah. So they ended up leaving. They just took a couple items, got in their cars and drove off. Nobody was hurt. Thank goodness. Mm. But what's the answer to these 4 guys that went into this house? Right. Could they be helped by a program like this? What are our options? Right. Or should they just go straight to jail? Yeah. How old were they? Right. How, what kind of opportunities have they had? How could this have been prevented? And could it be prevented in the future? And I'll give you just 3 quick examples. Yeah. 3 different students. During my career as a teacher, I've had lots of kids that have been in gangs in my
Sure.
in my career.
Sure, you teach enough kids.
And I've been to a number of funerals as well. So
Yes.
3 different kids. First kid, it was maybe my 2nd or 3rd year teaching. I was in the 1 program.
Right.
This young kid wanted out of the gang. He was very talented. You know, he knew what he wanted, but he's just like, I can't. And the superintendent, county superintendent, assistant superintendent helped that individual get out of Stockton and start a new life.
Wow.
Like
personally?
Personally funded them getting out of town. He can't come back to Stockton ever.
Right.
Ever. Okay? And he has survived.
But it's for his own good.
Right.
Yeah.
Second kid. This is 2007. He was in my class. 2007 or 8. He was in my class. Great kid. Really liked him. His first name was the same as my great-grandfather. Bright kid.
Yeah.
Did all his homework for me. Sat in the front. We had great conversations. And then I said, oh, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, Miss Fugazi, my choices are limited. And I'm like, no, they're not. He's like, nah. I mean, I'd like to go to college. I'd like to, go out and do things in the world, but that's not going to happen for me. He was in a gang.
Yeah.
So I said to him, listen, you can do whatever you want. You just need to you got to get out of Stockton. Same as that other kid.
Sure.
You got to get out of Stockton. And he's like, my family's here. I don't know. He had twin daughters, had little girls. Anyway, he prophesized what was going to happen to him. He told me, this is what's going to happen to me. And he said, I'll be lucky to make it to 21. He didn't make it to 21.
Yeah.
He was shot and killed in a drive-by.
Yeah.
With his 2, twin daughters that were toddlers at the time. Shot and killed in Stockton. Fell victim to the game. Story number 3. Another student comes to us. He's got, there's 5 siblings, 5 kids. Parents live in South Stockton. He's in the gang. His parents have already removed him from Stockton, sent him to Las Vegas thinking that he'd be okay in Las Vegas. Guess what? There's gangs in Las Vegas too. You can find affiliate chapter or whatever. You can find homeboys there too.
Right. Especially if you're looking.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Right.
So they're like, man, heck, we'll bring you back then. His youngest brother is still to this day afraid to go to the park because he got beaten within an inch of his life at a park. He had blood, the white T-shirt thing. His white T-shirt was bloody.
Yeah.
Just, like he thought he was dead.
Right.
When he went over to, grab him. Come on, we got to get home. We got to get help. Blah, blah, blah. He came to my school and, had the little cuts in his eyebrow and all that kind of stuff. I said, listen, we don't do that here. What you choose to do outside of the schools, your choice, obviously. But here at school, we don't do that gang stuff. And I asked him, well, what do you want to do? What are your interests? And I don't know. I used to play a little soccer. I'm like, well, why don't you go out for the soccer team? I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, he goes through his junior year. At the end of his junior year, I do an annual trip to Yosemite. I take kids backpacking. It's through WildLink.
Right.
And I called him up on his birthday, and I say, hey, I got the birthday present for your life for you today.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I go, I'm going to take you to Yosemite for a week. He's like, no way.
Yeah.
Super excited.
Of course.
He shows up in his big white T-shirt.
Right.
And his shorts that I'm not sure are pants or shorts or whatever.
You thought you meant Yosemite Avenue?
Red hat, red shoes, red belt, all this kind of stuff. Sweet kid. Really was.
Yeah.
He had no idea what he was getting into going to Yosemite. But I'll tell you, that trip did change him. He told me that. He said, man, me getting this opportunity. He came back his senior year, went out for the soccer team, made the soccer team, started on the soccer team. He no longer wore baggy clothes. Actually, he ended up doing a little modeling. He would wear skinny jeans, and I'd be like, look at you wearing skinny jeans. He's a successful business owner now. He moved his family out of South Stockton, and guess where they live now?
Where?
Brookside.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
so
he didn't have to go far.
He's just a kid. He's only, I think he just turned 23, but moved his family out. They're in a new neighborhood. He's got employees. He's been very successful. Super proud of him.
Yeah.
But, he had an opportunity that maybe others could take advantage of. So let's talk about advanced peace.
Right.
One of the pieces of advanced peace is actually, let me read it from the report. It's called transformative travel. I believe that there are opportunities for people to see other parts of not only this city and this state, but this world that will change their perspective on life because I've seen it happen.
Right.
But here's kind of my thing, is that 6 of these 7 things that Advanced Peace is offering, our Office of Violence Prevention already does. OVP already does it.
Interesting.
And we have peacekeepers that do this work.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's called Peacemaker Fellowships. I mean, there's so many similarities between what Advanced Peace is offering to do in Stockton and what we already do.
So now, are the things that we are already doing, are they having an impact? Are we measuring any success out of those?
Well, that's one
because it might be the same thing, but maybe somebody else knows how to do it better.
So that's one of the points of contention, like, well, then why do we have OVP?
Right.
Because
we've heard lots of issues about that.
What are the data? What has happened? But I know that those peacekeepers are out there. I have spoken to several of them. It isn't an easy job. You put yourself in harm's way every conversation.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt that there has been, guns at some of these meetings, and not by our peacekeepers. Because, people always have to watch their back when you live that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
And so I don't doubt that they're not out there doing the best they can, and maybe this Advanced Peace does do it a little bit better. But I also want to see their stats, their research, but not just from them. I mean, if this is something that is going to come into our community,
right,
I want to see some outside independent evaluation of the program.
Right.
Just like with anything. We have the Marshall Plan, we have Operation Ceasefire, we have OVP. Now we're adding something else. I wish we could do just one thing really well. Then a whole bunch of things halfway.
Okay.
So to speak.
Is that what it feels like?
Well,
I mean, the issues in the Office of Violence Prevention have obviously not been addressed, but we're introducing a new possible solution. Is that kind of the?
Yeah, and I think sometimes I definitely believe things take time.
Yeah,
definitely believe things take time.
Well, I shouldn't have said addressed. I should have said they haven't been solved.
Right.
But
I don't know if Advanced Peace is the answer, and here's why. Because Richmond is not Stockton, number one. Number two, they haven't had all success, but no program will.
Right.
I have a lot of questions, and I'll be asking those at tomorrow's meeting. A lot of questions. There are other programs that are longer that have received accolades and quite a bit of success. One of them is called Homeboy Industries down in L.A. That is done by Father Boyle, Hometown Industries. They actually, part of their program has components in it where these individuals that participate in the program, they're creating revenue to go back into their program. Okay? They have a bakery. They have
I like that.
A deli.
Right.
They have like a restaurant, like a little service deli at City Hall in L.A.
Okay.
Where they do salads and sandwiches. They have their own a farm. They're doing their own farm to fork.
Wow.
They're doing catering services. They're learning how to install solar panels. They're learning all these skills so they can go out and get a job. And they have a ton of supporters.
Right.
But that program is successful because I believe that Father Boyle makes that program successful. The other program is in San Francisco, and it's called Delancey Street Foundation.
Oh, yeah, I know about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is run by Mimi, I think it's Mimi Silbert.
Right.
And she is the heart and blood of that program. And it has been in operation for many years. So Homeboy Industries, I think, is 1988 that one's been involved. With the Delancey Street, it's not just in San Francisco. It's in LA. It's in New Mexico. It's in North Carolina. It's in New York. It's in South Carolina. I mean, it's in many other cities. And they have a cafe and catering. They do handcrafts, landscape, moving, trucking, restaurant, screening room, specialty advertising, Xmas tree and decorating. I'm just reading from their website.
Right.
This
is the Homeboy Industries.
No, that one's for
this
Delancey.
is Delancey Street.
But Homeboy Industries, they also do screen printing, the catering, the restaurant, the urban farm. They do a farmer's market.
And when was Delancey Street started? That was. It's been a few decades too, right?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I'm trying to find it on here.
Because I remember hearing like Gavin Newsom talk about it,
Oh yeah.
And when he was like San Francisco mayor, so that was at least
40 years.
40 years.
For over 40 years,
wow.
We've been developing a model of social entrepreneurship, of education, of rehabilitation and change that is exciting and full of hope. And that's, over 40 years. So we're talking 40 years there, 1988, for the other program. And Advanced Peace has been, the last 10 years or
10
so.
Years, yeah,
so I want to make sure, I do want to try something, if there's something we can add or information we can get. The other thing about the two other programs I mentioned is that the people in charge of it don't take a salary. They don't get paid for what they do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's run by volunteers or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, that's huge.
It is. It's a significant overhead as well.
And their list of benefactors, though, is also very long. And I will give that to the mayor's credit, because on this one, they say that it's no cost to the city, because there's the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Heising Simons Foundation, Live Free, and Pico, California. Now, I don't know what this program costs. I don't know what it costs per participant. There's supposed to be 25 participants for 2 different 18-month windows. The Homeboy Industries, theirs is also an 18-month program. I don't know exactly, I don't know enough about Advanced Peace.
Right.
I'm hoping we get that tomorrow night. Because like I said, I have a whole list of questions. Right. And I guess one of my biggest questions is that if there's no city money involved in this,
okay,
why does it need to come before the council? If it's not in our part of our budget, I get a little concerned when I read there that a commitment, support, and partnership. So
details.
Yeah, what does that exactly entail?
Right.
Because there is this notion that we're paying people not to commit crimes. And I'll tell you, as a high school teacher, that is absolutely sending the wrong message to our youth.
Certainly. But that's also being framed by the people who are in opposition. No one who's supporting it is using that type of language.
But I want to know on both sides, what has your research been? Because I've done my homework.
Now, I also did some research, and maybe you can help me out, because I'm sure as the most prepared guest of 2017, you're probably going to get that award this year as well. But when I was studying it, and I will say that the similarities I find from Richmond and Stockton is this. It's a mentality of the people in the community that in the impoverished communities. During that time that Richmond was seeing that spike, the people, and I'm saying this with inside knowledge, because I was part of the East Bay community for a number of years. And during that time, what I experienced was Richmond having the street level community in Richmond having this important desire to build their own credibility. And street credibility is not built on like achievement,
right?
Or
academic
goal.
achievement.
Right. It's built on fear and intimidation. So there were, I guess you could say, influential elements in the streets of Richmond that were up in the ante. And so the crime, the murder rate, everything was growing really fast. And it was kind of like almost like a competition. Are we tough as Oakland? Are we tough as San Francisco?
Right.
You know, we're Richmond.
Right.
Stockton is going through a similar thing. Has been going through it for the past, I'd say, decade and a half.
Well, with the influx of people from
From
EPA,
the Bay Area, right.
EPA, Oakland.
Now, I'm going to say this. Now, some of the tough folks came, left the Bay Area and showed up here. But a lot of folks that did that were just kind of like not in that life. But when you come out
wanted
here,
to leave that life.
But when you come out here and the young folks and people in more impoverished neighborhoods, what do they have to build their accolades on? Is a lot of time this street credibility. So the same kind of mentality I see here, which is like trying, street level activities to build the credibility of, Stockton hood life. It's tough to really communicate this because I got to be able to make sure that everyone gets what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is, and help me with maybe some of the numbers, but I read high 70s, was it like 75, 79% reduction in the murder rate in Richmond?
71.
71, okay. Reduction in the murder rate, which is, man, that is eye-popping. And if you go by the assumption that every time someone's murdered in our city, it costs us $1 million.
It actually costs us more than that.
Right.
I know that the mayor had said 400,000.
Yeah.
But that's just from police investigation.
That's just bills. Right.
We're not talking about the cost of murder to a city is anywhere between. There's a whole white paper on this. $4 to $12 million.
Right.
Because that's property values, that's insurance rates, that's loss of business.
Right. And you keep paying for it down the road.
Yeah. A loss of employees, having to retrain people, whatever.
Right.
Your cost of business operation goes up as well.
Yeah.
Your loss of tax revenue in a city.
Exactly.
Overall. So
if we experienced, let's say,
more.
if we experienced a 50% reduction in our murder rate, we're talking about the city potentially saving, 20 to 50 million bucks.
Okay. So are you saying then that the advanced piece then is solely responsible for the reduction in Richmond?
I'm saying those are the numbers that we've been that's been shared with us.
Right.
So
were those internal or independently?
Well, when you're on the internet, you're doing research.
Yeah.
You find some contradiction,
I
can
find lots of things on the internet.
Sure.
But those are the
but
questions.
if those numbers were able to be correlated, that's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
And I think that that's a great place to start. But your point was well taken, which is what else impacted this, right?
I know that I looked at some of the research as well,
right?
And found out that the policing. Community policing, the way that officers work. We talk about here in Stockton
community policing
about
was a big deal.
Developing trust.
They took it very seriously in Richmond, I think.
And they hired more officers.
Yeah.
And
they had the FBI helping too.
Yeah, and Richmond has 100,000 residents as opposed to us. And so
and also Richmond is also it's attached to all its neighboring communities.
And the other thing is that while maybe within the city of Richmond stuff went down, there were crimes happening outside of city limits in other neighboring communities done by Richmond residents.
Sure. Definitely.
I mean, that's been very easily identified, number of individuals. But like you said, I'm all for talking about
maybe the murders just got pushed out the city, the zone.
Well, one of them was there were 17 people shot, and only 3 died, thank goodness. But it was a crime spree, and unfortunately, there were some individuals caught up in that were fellows.
Right.
And so I know that this isn't...
which is bound to happen. There's going to be some recidivism, right?
Not everybody graduates.
That's right. But and forgive me if I interrupted you. Tomorrow's meeting, which is at what time?
5:30, City Hall, 5:30.
That's the public portion?
Yeah.
Okay, so at 5:30 tomorrow, everybody, pay attention. Be there, or at least watch it on the small screen. Will we have an opportunity to discuss these items, these concerns? Because the thing is that there's not going to be this whole gamut of everyone has the same questions, is what I'm saying. It's not like you got to ask, I don't know how many people we need to go through, but isn't there like just kind of a set?
Well, I don't know what the format is or the presentation. It's coming out of the mayor's office, and other than the report I received from the mayor's office, I don't have any of the details. I don't know if the advanced peace gentleman, I call him Mr. Bojangles, and I'm so sorry about that, but I don't know what his name is, so I keep calling him Mr. Bojangles. But I don't know if he's doing it or the mayor's presenting or his policy advisor, Max Vargas, is presenting. But I'll tell you, Governor Don, I have a list of questions, and I hope that council will oblige me and give me the opportunity to ask my questions, because I believe that there are similar questions to everybody else. And if we're talking about public process and discourse and discussion, I hope that I can ask my questions and that they be answered. Because when that happens, then people can feel confident in the decision that they're making.
Sure.
Because otherwise, the public is just, I mean, the public is just, all they're hearing is wah, wah, wah.
Right.
And they don't know which side is up.
Then they pick sides based on who they like.
Right. And or dislike. I can't get all the likes all the time. So, no, just joking.
You know you get all the likes.
But anyway, I'm a science teacher.
Right.
It's all about asking questions.
Yeah.
And those questions lead you to then results in a conclusion that only leads you to more questions.
Research and development.
I mean, that's totally it. And I want the best for Stockton. I don't want anybody to argue that point. You need to know, bottom line, I always want the best for Stockton.
Right.
And if this is what's the best for Stockton, okay.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to, well, if it's not using public funds, I'm not quite sure why we have to vote on this, why we have to adopt a resolution on this. Because a lot of times people come into our city and do wonderful things, and then we give them a resolution at the end and say, thank you so much. We'll make this I Care, National I Care, donate your glasses month or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Because we have a
lot. But this is preceding the implementation.
Well, this is kind of asking for our blessing because it says commitment, support, and partnership.
Now, I would think perhaps the reason why it would be brought up to the city council is that this is going to be integrated with our police department, our policies, our, it's going to be, it's going to involve.
I didn't see the chief anywhere in this report.
Well, I mean, we're talking about criminals. They're going to be involved somewhere. Talking about trying to prevent criminal behavior somewhere in there.
Okay.
Throwing some stuff out there.
You're absolutely correct,
Yeah.
which is why I'm hoping to hear from all those other entities as well.
Now, you remember last year we talked about the homelessness situation, and it was an interesting discussion. As we also talked about the value of the library, and you said, $1 put into this library is going to produce $8 worth of results, maybe $7, I don't know, but it was exponential increase, right? And we talked about the homeless situation and how we're looking at numbers. We know we're spending $20,000 a year per homeless person, but it would only cost us like $12,000 a year to house them and feed them.
Right. Well, if you look at incarceration, you're looking at $65,000 a year.
Yeah.
I know that Father Boyle's program costs between $20,000 and $40,000.
Right.
And they have a proven track record.
But that's
since
not that's not every year ongoing. That's a program that lasts a few years, and then
completion. And yet not the cost of a murder or something like that. Yeah, and getting people out and productive members of society. Absolutely.
It seemed like it would be for the supporters of this, it would be very wise to actually engage all the questions and to respond to every question, every line of questioning, because these are great questions. We need to know these answers, and if these answers are good, people are going to jump on board.
Right. Because that's what you want. You want the community to rally behind and support good ideas that are going to better our community.
Right.
Period.
But we pay, listen, we pay students to not commit crimes too. It's called scholarship. You get your life, right? So if we could get somebody who has a high potential to kill somebody, and we can get them a different perspective and skills and hope and to experience and to promote love and you know, all these kind of community ideas, that would be a great success. And however we can get to it, we just can't jump into it. We can't fall into it. We can't be pushed into it. We gotta see our way into it. We gotta find the best solution. Find these best practices. Right. And it sounds like you brought up a couple programs, but in my research, I found even more. There are a lot of communities that are actually, every community, every large community is dealing with this.
Actually, the homeless. Same with the homeless. Same with parks and recreation. Same with libraries. Right. I mean, all the issues we're having, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, something specific for Stockton. But we do have to make sure that whatever we adopt or bring to our city does address our specific needs.
Right. It's got to have.
It's got to
fit.
Yeah. It's got to fit. Otherwise, you know, we're doing a disservice to our community.
It's been great to have you on. You always get us to ask why. And why is
I'm in class.
It's often the most important question. And you know, it's been good for our community. I know there's a little bit of what they call controversy, but there is discussion and communication, albeit sometimes vitriolic. But we're expressing our feelings, and if we could, as a city council, come together and have this great discussion. And I know that I've talked to, you know, everyone on the council, you know,
sure,
you know, hey, we're on first name basis. No, but and everyone has this in mind. Everyone wants our community to be safer. Everyone wants to reduce violence, especially murders. So I think if we approach it with an open mind and ready to have this conversation, we can make great progress. And so that's what I'm hoping to see tomorrow.
Agreed.
And we thank you for coming in.
Great exit.
Yes,
great conclusion to today's segment.
Yes.
Thank you, Governor.
And we appreciate having you in, Miss Christina Fugazi, City Council member.
The most prepared guest.
The most prepared guest of 2017. Disseminator of the year. You brought us all nothing but information. And we're looking forward to tomorrow's meeting. That's 5:30.
5:30
at City Hall. Be there for the advanced peace version of.
And we will be having two meetings this month. Another one on the 23rd.
Ah, nice. Yes. We City Council meetings. Be there. We want to thank you for coming in, Miss Christina Fugazi. Of course, you're listening to Stockton SJC right here on the Voice of Stockton, KXVS. And we look forward to talking to you again, and want to thank you for all you do. Stay tuned for more quality programming right here on the Voice of Stockton, KXVS, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, Simple Radio, tune in, and getting ready to blast this FM this year. So thank you all for your support. Become a member. Send us some money. Call to action. Let's do this, community. And thanks again for tuning in to Stockton SJC, KXVS.